Polarized Podcast. Hey, glad you made it here. This is a podcast about polarizing movies. Polarizing in the sense of Rotten Tomato scores. Sometimes critics love it, sometimes they hate it. But here at this podcast, we talk about those movies. Today we're talking about Where the Crawdads Sing. It's a polarizing movie. You're just joining us for the first time. Hey, welcome. Glad to have you here. I'm your host, Brandon Stables. We're going to be talking about this movie. Where the Crawdads Sing has a Rotten Tomato score, critics 35%, audience 96%. And I'm not the only host of this podcast. Now I'm going to introduce the co-host, sometimes referred to as the forever guest, Mr. James Lindsay. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going? What's up? Hello, everybody. Welcome to PolarizedPod Podcast. Hey, where are those crawdads singing today? Let's find out. We're talking polarizing movies. Let's go, baby. Woo!
Wow, so you brought the opposite energy of what I was bringing to this episode. So yeah, we don't normally start the podcast with this type of voice, me introducing things the way that I did. But, just like how this movie introduced itself, it's just going to be a nice, sultry VO over what's happening. And James, on the other hand, decided to bring the exact opposite.
Let's fucking go! Another episode of Polarized Podcast! Woo! Yeah! I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm fucking jacked.
I guess wake the fuck up, because we're here to polarize in your ear.
We're polarizing your ears. Your right ear is going to hate your left ear. They're going to be polarized.
So, James, what do you think?
Your brain's going to be in the middle.
Do you think I kind of match the setting and the mood of the
You nailed it.
Movie?
You nailed it.
Thank you.
I'm compensating big time.
Big time.
Big time. You nailed it. I think I was already feel like I was being shaken awake at the beginning of this movie. Like, hey, there's a movie you should watch.
Here we go. Let me introduce you to a very terrible CGI bird while I say marsh in a weird way. My first note of the movie, James, was, what was that word she just said? Because it sounded like warsh. But then I was like, is it marsh? Is that what she's saying? And I just already was set on this path the second this movie started with, wait a minute, what was that word? And wow, that bird looks like shit.
You're making me think that I should, instead of trying to say Worcestershire sauce, I should just say Worsh sauce. Give me some of that Worsh sauce.
Yeah.
I'm a Marsh Girl.
Yeah, so I had heard before this movie that there's Horse Girl. Now there's girl dinners, and there's a couple stereotypical girls, I guess, out there in the world. I believe it. It's not that I don't believe it. They're like Bigfoot, it's just you come across them once in a while. But I guess, speaking of Bigfoot and once in a while, there's the Marsh Girl. I wasn't familiar with this term, that it seems like everybody in the movie just understands it as just the common thing to say.
You haven't grown up in the bayou.
oh, James, are you telling me you grew? We gotta call you the Poor Boy King, because I had no idea.
You haven't heard them crawdads singing.
So, man, I have a point of contention already too with the name of this movie, because
that's
not enough crawdads, right?
Not worth it. That final line was like is so poetic. Like a lot of the lines in this movie definitely lifted from the book, and they're nice. And their narration and everything sounds nice and is well written, and everything is just like kind of jumbled together in a way that doesn't fully have the connective tissue that reading a book would. But that final line, I don't know, wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be
Sure.
of like the title fitting with everything. But it is, I mean, it's a fine title, I guess, especially for a book, like,
Sure.
overall. But just when you
So-
when you hear the title in the movie, you're like your ears perk up and you're like, ooh, they said it. And that the way it did it at the end of the movie wasn't, it made me do that, but then not in as satisfying of a way as I would have wanted. I wanted fucking them like singing can you feel the love tonight?
Oh, sure.
While
God.
she goes with Hunky McHunkster down, like they each have two boats. They hold hands like in the condom commercials, or no, not condom, the erectile dysfunction commercials where they're in the bathtubs. ED. But they're in boats and they're just holding hands like that.
Oh, okay. So
because there's so many boats, so much boat stuff.
Put that on a bumper sticker. But before we get fully into it, James, I wanted to start with a new segment.
Before I'm bringing all the energy.
Before we get into the actual movie itself, is I want to know, what are you watching?
What are you watching? Ooh, I like this. This is great.
Yeah, let's talk about movies just by and large before we get into it. Because, I think if you're tuning in, if you're tuning out, like we did for this movie, either or, I'm sure, you're liking movies, you're into movies and doing stuff. So I think it's worth, before we dive deep into the marsh, we talk about what we're vibing on. Maybe it's vibing on movies. I don't know. It's a working segment title.
What are my more recent viewings? It's been Collateral. I watched that this past week.
Yes, tell me about that.
New edition on Netflix, and I really enjoyed it. I really had a good time as far as a thriller.
The way that movie shot is very cool. Yeah. Oh my god.
And there's a lot of people in it. Like, it blew my mind. I forgot because Jason Statham is in one scene at the very beginning. He hands Tom Cruise a package. Ruffalo is the lead detective of the whole thing.
I love Ruffalo in a position like that.
Yeah, and he's got a goatee. He's got his hair slicked back. I love it. I love it. Love Ruffalo.
Love it.
Ruffalo.
An inquisitive Ruffalo is my favorite Ruffalo.
Yeah, I mean that's Zodiac in him in that one is might be my favorite.
Or Spotlight might be my favorite.
Oh yes, definitely. And then who else? Oh yeah, Javier Bardem is fucking in that movie too. It's crazy. It was just blowing my mind. I was like one after the, and then fucking was it Jada Pinkett Smith? No, I forget who else. Someone else was in it too.
Speaking of Javier, you had just sung you were alluding to Hercules. I think Say You're in Love was a little bit of that melody you were alluding to earlier, right?
Oh, Can You Feel the Love Tonight?
Oh no, Can You Feel the Love Tonight?
Oh, it was Lion King.
That's Lion King.
I don't know why I did Can You Feel the Love Tonight. I feel like I should have said Kiss the Girl because it would have been Kermit and like a closest thing to a crawdad in a Disney movie singing. That's what I should have said.
So that's what my brain
Disney wires mixed.
That's what my brain naturally did, because what I was going to say is I just saw Javier Bardem in the new Little Mermaid. That's why I was bringing it up. So,
yeah,
my God.
Daddy Merman.
Daddy Merman. This summer.
His beard's just flowing. All the hair is just flowing in that movie.
It's so distracting in that movie. And it's just, we talked in length on the episodes and if anybody's listening want to go hear my longer take, I would say on this, is that the making real these reboots of these cartoon Disney movies, it is so distracting the parts that need to be real if you're going to do it real. And the water stuff where the hair is in water is so fucking distracting because it's like moving all the time, and it is CGI and you can tell. And it's just tough. Just like with The Lion King, what I said on that episode is when you're just trying to make something real, it is takes a lot of like in an animated movie previously, the hair moving was for emotional effect, and now things like that or expressions on the animals' faces, in for instance with Lion King, it just when you have to make it real, it loses a lot of a part of what was good about the original series, which is animating characters and animals in a way that is expressive to what's happening. So it just seems so fun and so vibrant because it is just orchestrated that way. And just like with this movie is there were some really fun songs. I also think it's really funny because this was I didn't know this, but Little Mermaid was another Lin Man
Yeah.
well Miranda joint, and it's
Mhm.
just funny to me how much of a guy he
Yeah.
is
That's their
with
guy.
Disney, right?
That's
Like
their
he's
guy.
just
Yeah.
on
Mhm.
everything, and
It must be nice. I mean, it must be kind of a
it's
dream
not
job.
bad. Yeah. Oh my god, it has to be right? You get paid just dumb amounts of money to
He makes great songs. I mean, all the
make
Moana
songs.
stuff
Yeah.
is
Right.
amazing in my mind.
That's my
I
favorite.
love Moana. All the music is a big part of it for sure.
Yeah, and I think Encanto's really good too, and I think that is him
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, Javier Bardem, uh yeah, so funny to just see him in that role because he can be such a scary guy, such a commanding presence, and that is a requirement of not Zeus. Who is he?
Is it
He's
Poseidon?
Poseidon.
Is that who it
Yes.
is?
Yeah. Yeah. Such a commanding presence, but it is so
King
fascinating in that
Triton.
movie in particular where he is such a loving father. You know,
Oh
and to see
yeah.
him in that role it was really interesting because yeah, he can be so scary and such a big guy, like a brute almost, and
Hmm.
he's kind of a softie.
His eyes are
You know,
very cutting. Yeah, even with all the CG shit going all around him and everything, you can still see his eyes, and you can do so much with that.
for sure.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
that's
okay,
another polarizing movie actually, and that's kind of fits the mold of our first episode was the Lion King version. We kind of talked at length about all that kind of
sure.
stuff too, and it works for some people, doesn't work for others, and they continue to make them and they continue to be polarizing, but it keeps their IP and everything in check, and they're going to keep on
Mm.
coming up with new versions of those stories as long as they can in my mind. So yeah, I mean those are a couple things. I don't know, there's some shows I got, been doing some anime more lately in my life. I've been trying to get through Hunter x Hunter, almost finished with that. The show Silo on Apple TV Plus or whatever is I'm almost
Oh, I
finished
don't
with
know about
it.
that.
It's good. It was a good book. And
Mm.
the show's been good too. I have a couple episodes left. I love Rebecca Ferguson. She's
Oh,
awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
she's
me
great.
too.
Lady Jessica.
Yeah. Oh, so fantastic. Um,
Hell
very
yeah,
cool.
that's an awesome
Yeah,
new segment. I love
there it
that.
is. Yeah,
That's what
let's
we've
get
been.
into this goddamn movie,
My
right?
first note also CG Bird.
CG Bird. Let's talk about
My second note. You'll pay for this, Marsh Girl. Was she's getting carried away, and there's just rabble people around, and one guy. And I
uh,
didn't know Marsh Girl was going to be said so many times in this movie, but that was the first time. And I was like, I'm
yes.
going to write this down. They just called that person Marsh Girl. Little did I know
Right,
that's going to be
absolutely.
a big part of this. They should call the
Yes,
movie Marsh Girl.
they should.
Maybe the
It re-
book's where the Crawdads sing, but this movie's called Marsh Girl.
they say Marsh Girl in this movie conservatively 1,000 times. It gets to a point where I'm just laughing at how many times in a scene she will be referred to as Marsh Girl. And
Yeah.
why it's so funny is because everybody treats it like you're saying as a common saying of
Mhm.
somebody, and us as an audience members, like I've never ever heard anybody be called that, but every single like level of person in this town refers to her as Marsh Girl. Like it's just, yeah, that's the thing. And
It's
it
almost
just
like
ends up
town idiot or something. And to call someone that's
right.
town idiot, I don't know. It just seemed like such a, yeah, such a,
Like a
uh,
derogatory term too. Yeah.
but
Right.
then yeah, I
It,
don't know, like her whole family disappears, and I guess everyone forgets her name and her last name, or and everything. She never comes out. But that happens quick, and this is already you're
like,
starting to feel the difference between a book and a movie. Even if we haven't read the book, things are moving at a pace that is not given the chance to breathe when it should, and then other times it's like breathing in
mm,
ways that could maybe be
yeah.
expedited, or at least made more a little more
Mhm.
interesting in other ways too, or have a little bit of edge in terms
Sure.
of
Cause I'm,
like not being so uh melodramatic and like a soap opera, but you know.
yeah, this movie reminded me so much of like the way the Notebook is visually too, and
Mhm.
how what it focuses on, and the movie itself. I don't know about the book in particular. I know my mom really likes the book. She was telling me about
This
this. That's why I
of
was
Where Did the
excited.
Crawdads Sing?
Mhm,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
that's why
Okay.
I was excited to do this movie because
Hmm.
she was like, "Oh, the book's really great,"
Yeah. Do you know
and
you
it
don't
is.
know you don't know what she thinks about the movie?
I don't think she's ever seen it. Like,
Yeah.
my mom's very weird like that, where she's just like, just because a movie comes out of it isn't, uh, you know,
Mhm.
isn't like, oh, I got to see that now. She's like, I read the book, enjoyed it, and that's all I need to do.
Sure. Yeah, I
And
mean, there's some
sure,
adaptations where I might steer clear of as well.
mm, totally. And
I only
it
read
is
some of the
funny.
Dark Tower books, but I saw the trailer of that movie. I'm like, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's not good. It is poopy doopy snoopy. Um, That is funny though to just talk about the difference, like how a book would be in comparison to how a movie would be, because I'm assuming that the book would have a lot more interior into each one of the characters of what they're thinking about the things that are going
Right.
on. And that's not
During the
something that
romantic scenes, that would be great to have that
that
internal
would be
monologue shared with us,
fantastic.
because that's, to hear her internal monologue that's not overdone narration. Uh, that's what makes the romance really, really work. That, I mean, the chemistry is pretty much there. I don't know. What do we think of the performance of the main character?
I think she is perfect,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah. Because this movie, I think, does really well and is probably really attractive to women because the what is her name? Emily or Daisy Edgar Jones has really big eyes, and plays this like confused, reserved girl very, very well. And I think that's attractive to the female audience of like somebody who is very smart, contemplative, sensitive, emotional, and really also is very capable too. I think she handles all of that really well.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It is
I
a lot to ask to be the Marsh Girl and to emote these things of just being, yeah, lost, confused, misunderstood, wanting but not understanding how to get those emotions across and everything. It's some of the things she does get a little repetitive to me, but that doesn't
sure,
necessarily mean that they're bad decisions as an actor. But
movie's
uh,
fault. Yeah,
it's, well, yeah, it's just that sort of, she
because
does
the
that
movie is
thing where
very repetitive.
her eyes, yeah, her eyes
Yeah,
do,
it's super repetitive. I mean, this
yeah,
movie has a
and the positions that
connection.
it puts her in as well, yeah.
I was like, it was so funny as anybody listening who doesn't know what I look like, I'm a white guy, and it was so
You're a
funny
lizard
how
man.
much I'm a lizard man, actually. Yeah, busted. Busted. That I had white guy blindness in this movie, where the guy, so this movie is structured in a way where there are two romantic relationships. One is leading to like one place, and the other one is like creating a level of trauma and understanding to get to that relationship, and it's played by two dudes that look so fucking similar.
Oh, interesting.
It really was tough for me where I'm like, these guys are so fucking similar looking. Where for a second got whiplash, where I was like, wait, who? Because this movie moves through time in a way as well, where like people are
That's
kind of getting
true.
older
Yeah.
as well, and
The
it was
transition from
so
one to the
funny
next
to me where
is
I'm like,
quick.
Taylor Johnson and or Taylor John Smith and
Always.
Harris Dickinson are really pretty similar to me look wise, but obviously what they mean to Kaya is different.
Oh, you
And
mean Marsh Girl?
Marsh Girl. But I could recognize that, yeah, it was just so funny that I made a note of it where I was like, man, it's just two very similar white guys. And she definitely has a type, was what I was thinking the whole time. I was like, wow, she really has a type. It's this, you know, jawed, tall white dude with brown hair.
I mean, yeah, and they are styled very similarly at this time in,
right.
American fashion. You got your white tees and.
It's so, yeah, all the fashion of this movie is so funny because to go back to the plot of this is we start off with
her whole entire family leaving
yes
her one by one.
And man, there are some brutal
and it goes by quick. It's like, fuck, you just already feel so emotionally drained by the
I know, like, right?
Someone's been murdered, she's been wrongfully accused, you assume, or not. I don't know. You're not really sure what to assume at the.
No, you definitely assume, for sure.
And then you watch her immediate flashback. The flashback is like quick in this movie because it's like wrongfully accused, get her in the interrogation, and then like, let me tell you my story.
Yes, so stereotypical.
And then by the guy who just moments ago said he's retired. that was already something off the bat. I was like, where's that? There's missing a scene in the movie. They forgot to edit that scene in where he's just like talking with his wife, looking at the newspaper about Marsh Girl and being like, hey, we remember that family. Remember that girl. Don't we care about them? Like, come back for one final case and put things right and save the Marsh Girl. That never happened. He just like shows up. I was like, I thought you said you were retired. Why are you coming back? It showed him like see it at the bar on the news or something like that, but there was no conversation. And I was
because you end up
like, this is
understanding a little bit more.
Must be expanded on in the book of the lawyer character a little bit. I don't know.
Oh no, absolutely, yeah. I mean, and that's how and that's what we're talking about is like the way this movie translate the book to the movie. Its failings are that is so weird that all of it leading up to the situation is weird because you don't understand why this girl is like diving into the marsh. She's around there, then she gets caught, and then you're right.
The crime scene's kind of interesting, of them like looking around at the top and the grate.
It's really not.
And the grate and everything.
It's really not.
I don't know. Like when you go into a movie like this, you're like, oh, there's going to be a mystery of who's done it. And so when that happens, it's like, oh, at the bare minimum, it's giving me like these cops have found a body, no footprints. Ooh, interesting. Ooh, the grate.
Right.
Ooh, what's happened? Oh, it could have and then like going into like the CSI of it all of like,
they're like,
well, which way was he facing when he got pushed off? Like, and then at the very end when he's like, well, even if, and I thought that was like one of the more effective parts of the movie was him as the lawyer, like giving that whole speech at the end of like
Stratharm
from Godzilla 1 and 2, King of Monsters. But he's like, even if she would have to drive all the way, have this meeting with the publisher, and then come back, murder somebody, and then come back in the morning. Like that was such a great speech by him that gave me that satisfaction of like a procedural mystery sort of thing. But then you get the romance drama all mixed into it too. There's a lot of,
which is 75% of the movie, right?
Which makes sense in a book, is like you can reach all those different points.
Yeah, and it just is like it's such a slow burn, and it focuses so much of the coming of age element of
Mhm.
Aya's character, which is interesting. But since it is also hanging its hat on a courtroom drama, like I just wanted so much more out of that side of the movie. You would go like 35-minute stretches of her just casually having a romance with this guy, which is like,
They
it's
didn't even
fine.
question the shopkeepers. I don't know.
I loved them. I mean, they were great
Like at
people,
the in the
right?
courtroom and everything, they didn't question them. They didn't
Oh,
question
right.
his like
uh
her like love interest. The I need to get these guys' names down.
Yeah. Jumpin and Mabel are the
Those are
shopkeepers.
the shopkeepers, and then uh Tate
Aya.
is like the good dude, and Chase is the bad dude,
Yeah.
um, essentially. But Tate Tate, they didn't question Tate, you know, either. Like they those like it was such a weird pacing in this movie
It
because
incredibly weird.
they come in at the end like they're the like star witnesses, those like the two shopkeepers, Tate
uh
and his dad, all walk in, and there's this moment editing wise where it gives them the full picture.
Sure.
Everyone looks at them, they're like, okay, one if not
It's
all of
not
these
yeah.
people are going to get questioned, and they don't. And there's just
I
like stuff missing. I don't know.
it's so weird.
It's so weird.
It's so bizarre
Yeah.
because where the movie cares and places its attention is in this melodramatic love story that then evolves into this like prisoner, very like uh toxic relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all the movie kind of really cares about. But it has this courtroom drama, but it could not really give a shit less about it.
Yeah.
And it's just so apparent because every time, like you're saying, that it would cut to the courtroom shit, I was like, can we like get some evidence that isn't just the mother of the deceased and like just like some uh,
Uh-huh.
you and me have been talking offline.
And it would introduce characters in that moment too. That was
Of
like the
course,
interesting
yeah.
pacing too. It was like, here's the publisher, and here's this like other guy that saw her leaving after
Oh my god, I
getting
was so excited about that
SA'd,
scene.
and then
I
he was
was like,
like just
thank God.
this fisherman that was just there, and it was like, oh, we're getting into, oh, look at this guy, like look at these colorful casts of characters that you know, it could have been that sort of thing too,
Absolutely.
but it did do a lot with the romantic drama, toxic relationship side of it all, which paid off
Sure.
in the other effective moment of the movie. We're just jumping around, like it's
No,
fine,
no, no.
but
Please, I love this.
like when you
Yeah.
find out he's double married. Like that's that was an effective part. So that was like that was like
if
the
I had
best
a
part of
nickel
me.
for every it was a double married situation, I'd be a rich man. I feel like I could have called that like a fucking mile and a half away.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was so goddamn apparent.
Like it was gonna
that-
draw, like it was gonna be like his real nature was gonna come to reveal itself
His,
eventually.
his
And
real nature was always there.
yeah, big time, big time. It was so obvious, but
He had the
that
he had
I
the
like that
nicer
scene
boat.
though. That moment
Yeah.
of like seeing him with her at the and then like her just running home and all that stuff. Like that was uh what the movie and the book, I'm sure, like it was a big climactic moment, and I thought it was overall effective for that. But and his rebuttal was just so intense too, and drawn out in its own fucked up way that was not enjoyable to watch, naturally so. And then that stuff is in its
Sure.
but it's just it's gratuitous to a point too. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But is it necessary? I mean, for dramatic
It's
effect, I mean, yeah, I mean,
isn't it so fascinating though? A movie that is like written, produced, directed, starring women, that the focus of the movie isn't the courtroom of it all or the procedural elements of it all. It is just about toxic relationships and the effect that it has on a person. I I was trying to give the movie credit because I think there is credit for
it
what's
was
due.
really focusing on her perspective.
Yes, for sure.
It was very much
And
like her experience through all of, the courtroom and all of her relationships and everything, and being thrust into this courtroom and having it all just be decided around you and for you, and you can't really, and your voice is
so
kind of
powerless. Yeah.
taken away, and then you get to see her journey of kind of finding
Finding
her
her
voice
power.
and her power
Yeah.
and her identity and her power and strength,
Like
and
so much so that she learns how to read in this movie. You know what I mean? Like, talk about finding your voice.
that was
It's just
pretty that was wholesome. I mean,
I'm not saying it's bad. I
their
wasn't saying that it's
romance at
bad.
her and Tate at the beginning, yeah, that's
A thing that I noticed in this movie, again, because I feel like it's directed and written by women, that the intimate moments of this movie are really tender and
yeah.
sweet and had a
Mhm.
great kind of perspective of it. I was really into
Like
when
whenever I go out, I just like to put my lady in the middle of a marsh and drive around on my boat while she's in her boat and make a wave pool.
I
Just
know this
hoot and
about you.
holler all day long.
I've known this about you for so long, and I'm glad that you're, speaking your truth on this podcast.
All right, babe, get in the middle. I'm gonna drive around, and make some waves.
Yeah.
Woo!
Get a 6-pack of Budweiser.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, but I just, it was really noticeable in this movie where the camera was pointed in the intimate moments between Kaya and like Tate or Chase or whatever. Like, I was really into the fact that the camera would be like on certain parts of her body that were like not so, because like if a guy directing this, you'd be like, let's just, you want to see all of it. But it was so careful and tender in those moments where it would just focus on like really kind of obscure quote unquote parts of the body that would elicit a lot of really great emotion. And I
Sure.
loved that element of it. But the thing is that this movie has a like a thing to say, and it just more often than not is so meandering. Like, I time and time again in this movie I was like, what are we doing? Like, where are we going? Like, where like, let's move this shit along. Because I get it. It is a coming of age story, a woman's coming of age story that has had a very, I in particular, it makes it very apparent that love did not exist in her household. And so for her to open herself up to love is like, God, such a monumental thing.
She
Like,
doesn't know how she should be treated. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, she's only experienced
Like.
treatment in a particular way, and there are moments with Tate in particular where he is treating her in a way, and you could see it on her where she's like, "I don't know, I've never felt this way, or I've never received love in this way." And I think
Because he's a
Daisy
true
Edgar,
catch, like he's a true
right?
like top to bottom, like he's doing everything right. He gets her feathers and notes, teaches her how to read. That like
Oh yeah,
he fucks up big time once, and he like endlessly apologizes for it, and then his reasoning is stated well too as to why
yeah.
he missed out on it. But I'm okay, I'm in love with Tate, but the extent that this movie spends on like the middle part, like the Tate stuff is fun, and naturally you don't like to be with
Tate
Chase
stuff is fun,
but the Chase stuff is just like, ugh. It's like, I know, and then it's like, it's got to have a commentary on like, the rebound of coming out of a relationship and wanting to, and you're getting that attention from someone else, and you can see her, rebuff him at multiple points, but she stays in the relationship, the toxic relationship, and it's just, that's like a drawn out, frustrating part of the movie because it is paced directly after a previous relationship where she just was courted and went through this whole thing. So now you see the kind of the
It's
Mr.
right
Hyde,
back to that.
the bad version of it, and it's just kind of, it drains you because
Right.
it's so close to the thing that just happened and so similar, but
Agreed.
so much worse.
Right.
That
Like
it's like glaringly.
the chase stuff should be cut between the courtroom drama stuff way more quickly.
We don't need as
And
much of the him courting her chase. I like, you can
we
already tell he's
don't.
a bad dude. You can, and then like, I don't know, like you can
Right. No, you're
narrate
right.
that away. Like I got with another guy that like gave me attention but didn't treat me in the, whatever. And then,
Sure.
but I
Yeah.
don't
Like,
want to
just
say how to
again,
do it.
no, it's fine. We're talking about a movie that there are things I like about it.
Yes.
Like, but there's just a lot of stuff that I'm like, you know, I think it's going to be a reoccurring phrase in regards to this movie of like, there's something missing. Like, there
Mhm.
needs to be more of something, I understand why you're focusing on this, but like, in order for it to be like really interesting, you need to have more of a, a bunch of other stuff, honestly.
This connective tissue and just befuddling missing things and stuff that I question whether it is for artistic effect or just oversight, or it can't be a 2.5 to 2 hour
Yeah.
45 minute to 3 hour movie, so we have to find a way to cut things down. But the things that they choose is just weird, and we keep saying it, but like, and I'm jumping to the end as well, but like, I don't, the other unsatisfying part about it, and this is maybe more the artistic side of things, is why they chose not to just show her exactly how she did it
Mhm.
and how she killed him
Yeah.
and
Right.
got him there with no
Mhm.
footprints and the grate and all these things that are just like these breadcrumbed out from the beginning, that
Mhm.
you get the narration at the end, and her, like it's her, and like them growing old together is really sweet. I like that. That is a good moment.
You
And
love
him,
Tate.
yeah, and him finding the letter and all that stuff. And uh but
Mhm.
it just, I wanted that mystery side in courtrooms. Maybe, I think maybe we're wanting a little bit more of that, and maybe that
We
speaks to
are
our proclivity
us,
towards some of
our
those things.
sensibility
But
for sure.
I don't know, I like romance as much as anyone, and I really like the Tate stuff. But it's a strangely paced and strangely edited thing that is unsatisfying, frustratingly so, uh in a lot of like key moments, because they even wanted like, yeah, that conversation between them, and like, oh, I'm his fiance, like, I wanted to let that burn even a little bit more. Like, she
Mhm.
ran away, I was like, I just wanted to like sit in that for even longer, some of the more dramatic things. So it's kind of constantly uh me hitting those frustrating moments with this movie when I'm wanting it to
And
lean more in a certain way, and it goes a different direction and kind of can't, or maybe can't make up its mind. um
I
yeah.
think it's just overall the priorities of the movie are so much more interested in the like abuse and relationship stuff, and it presents these ideas which then elicits from us a want and interest in about like what the town is more like. We get so
Yeah,
little interior into the town.
sure.
um we also just get so little interior into the family dynamics of Chase. Like, I get it that his family wants him to have this, woman, this life, and all of that, but it's just all of it is just so like
You
the
couldn't
movie doesn't
it,
care
they
about
couldn't
any of
show you
that.
any Chase shit, because then you'd find out he double married. But
Right.
you see enough of him like with her, and enough people know that he's spending time with her too. So that's a strange thing that his fiance wouldn't catch wind of that.
Sure.
And if anything, she's nice to her. She's like, "Oh, I know your name." Oh, she's like, "Oh, hi, Marsh Girl. I mean, I'm sorry. Hi, Clark.
Mhm.
Hi, Kaya Clark. I remember your name." Uh, I
Sure, but
the, my,
she's dressing her down the entire time when she's doing
yeah,
that. So it's not
everybody.
like, you know, we don't want to give her too much credit for, trying to get away from calling her the derogatory term Marsh Girl. So, okay, let's talk about Marsh Girl just as a concept again. Because so much of this movie, I was holding myself down because I was so wrapped up in like how she like as a Marsh Girl, how does she understand a lot of the things that she's kind of pursuing? I think specifically, I think one thing in my if I were to look at my notes would be like, how does she know about a boyfriend, and like why does she want a boyfriend, and like there's that's a concept, that's a social concept that you predominantly experience through going to school and watching media, is these like what it means to be boyfriend and girlfriend, and like the pursuance of that, all and everything related to that. And that is one example, but there's like a bajillion, I feel like, where how does she know what any of that means? Because she's living by herself as a child till she's a adult. And time again, I'm like, how does she know about what that is? And why does she want that? And it drove me nuts because I would always just be like, I can pull up my notes, but I would love to hear your opinion on it. Of if you ever notice that, where you're like, wait, why? How does she know that that's a thing?
Yeah, and that's again, like, I think the connective tissue, and all you really see, her connections are the shopkeepers. Her father leaves, the last one to leave, and she's got to be what, like 10, 8
Eight,
to 10?
10 or 11, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she immediately picks up her muscle hustle and and
You dirty dog.
starts
Okay.
hustling the muscles.
Yeah.
And then Tate is the only other one that she's been connected to, and he doesn't start teaching her to start reading until high school age. And there is a lot missing there, and a lot of interesting stuff as to how to survive as a child into high school age in a marsh and take care of yourself, even sanitary wise. Like, I would expect her to show up to Tate and be like, hey, precious,
Right.
hey, precious. And she's like looking like, like grungy teeth and just
Yeah.
like
Uh,
uh unkempt.
a
But who
feral
knows?
person.
Yeah, but yeah, she got to age 10, saw enough of her, as dysfunctional as shit as it was, her family and everything. Maybe I don't know, she found some way to self-sustain. But a lot of social thing, I agree with you, is like, if it is there in the movie and in the book, it's, or not in the movie, but if it is in the book and it is there as far as the story element goes, then we don't see it, unfortunately, as to how that happens. And maybe it is going to the shop every day. She said she only goes to school one day, and then she's
Mhm.
over it
That's
because
it. Yeah.
they bully the shit out of her. And so
Mhm.
how she socializes beyond that is not shown in the movie, and is a fun, kind of a funny concept
It's such a funny concept.
to think about, to be a Marsh Girl. And yeah, just, I don't know, she looks all right to me.
Yeah. It's such a glaring like you're in a movie quality about her, where she is dressed in a way that's like has a sense of style, but it's like being dressed by a stylist is really, it's so
In my
clear.
mind, she's trying to be her mom. Like, she's looking at her mom's dresses all the time and wants to emulate that. And there's a lot
Sure.
of, and that was like the emotional moment for me when she dies, and has that whole connection with her mom as she's dying at the end, and the whole like cross generational thing, and seeing her as herself as a child reaching out to her mom, and all that, like all that
Mm,
stuff was really nice,
mm,
um and subtle in ways that, and this movie is not subtle in other ways, but there are other things that are nice, and details that seem like they would come from a good place. And that's where I think, like, the text must have uh a story there that it has a variety of like interesting characters, and I think that would have helped this movie a lot too. I think you mentioned earlier about seeing the town and the more like the cast of characters and having it be an ensemble thing could have propped her up as a character as well, because you don't need to have her experience it and narrate it the whole time. You could have, oh yeah, I remember seeing Marsh Girl come through town, and she'd stop by for a spell and have a soda pop and like ask me questions about what it's like, to go to school. Like, I don't know, or like, and then you could have people on the courtroom answer those questions about like, oh, here, me as a lawyer, I'm going to build her character and ask more people about, and it's essentially what he does, but it's just not enough. I want more.
It's not even close is the problem.
And we haven't really talked about her hustle besides the muscle is the all her beautiful drawings, and I think that's a great detail as far as a realized part of who her character would be and why she would be so good at that. Makes a lot of sense, because all of the things that we've criticized as being a Marsh Girl, maybe you wouldn't know about. You could draw a fucking, wildlife and mushrooms. Well, if you spend enough time with it, and that's, you have a lot of time in your hands by yourself, you're going to draw what's around you. Like that's something you can naturally figure out. And I love just how the drawings look. I was sad when she ripped them apart, and
they're all over her place too, and they're so beautiful.
Cool. Yeah,
there was that moment too where they're in the courtroom, and she's getting so stressed out about things, and the lawyer like gives her a pen to draw, right, and she just goes to town, and it's just such a wonderful moment of like that is her happy place to just be in the marsh, to admire the wildlife, because that's all she's had.
That's a big draw of this movie, I think too. I just the idea of like being a Marsh Girl, there's a certain like, I don't know, admiration for it, or like you fantasize it a bit of like, oh, what if I lived in the marsh and I was a marsh witch, and where people called me witch or whatever, but I did what I wanted, and I have all my drawings, and I'm self-sustaining, and I don't really need anybody. I don't need to go anywhere. I got my marsh. That's all, and that's, there's a certain amount of strength that she exudes that is attractive for people like Tate, and Chase is attracted to her for all the wrong reasons, I think. But for Tate, seeing who she truly is there is an attractive quality to that. And his, I mean, that was the melodramatic part too. I was a sucker for it, but it was like, yeah, I tried. I went to school. I got a job, and it didn't matter. I just wanted you in the end. Like, all that stuff is so cheesy and all that stuff. But there's a part of me that's still sees a movie like this and knows that I'm going to get some version of that and the murder mystery and everything. And I'm looking for those things, and kind of satisfied when I at least have those climactic moments of someone professing their love and in a way like that. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm getting something here. But beyond that, I think this movie kind of rang hollow in a lot of other ways. And I'm happy to move on to some reviews if you're down.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's take a break.
Final notes. Yeah, if you want to take a break, I'll read through some of my notes while you if you're gonna do a little bathroom break, or we can just take a break.
Let's just take.
We'll just take a break. We'll be right back. We'll take a freaking break.
Well, let's talk notes. So
flashback. Oh yeah, this ambient sound is nice. Amazing tree. There's something going on with that Marsh Girl. I think I just started writing down lines where they said Marsh Girl. She's the Grinch? ? I don't know. They just felt like she was the Grinch of the town. That leaf dance. That was kind of rough to me. It was played to be so,
I know, so
romantic,
like, oh my god!
But it was like, guys just started laughing really hard
because they just go, oh,
it was like that sort of thing of like what you think humans would do if you're an alien or something. It's like, yes, aliens love when leaves fall from sky, and they immediately dance in a rapturous way. It was just so immediate, like
yeah, like they so immediately clocked the
It was like a tornado of leaves,
the
and they
dust
just
devil, yeah,
and
with
she
the
just
leaves, and they're like, well, you know what we have to do is we have to go dance on it.
maybe I'm just too cynical. I need to be more like that in my life.
No, that's a Marsh Girl would know that when you see you know, a dust devil of leaves, you have to go dance in it.
Yeah, that's a fault of my own. You
Fault of
can't
your
run away
stars.
from every whip stitch. That's something they say.
I said the same thing too.
I didn't look at what a whip stitch is. Do you know what a whip stitch is?
I have zero idea, but that somebody said it like it was a thing.
In a sewing stitch pass over an edge, or in a sling, an instant, a moment. Oh, can't run away from every moment.
Oh.
Immediately after that, I put 3 Z's. It's like zzz. Snooze. I was snoozing during Chase's relationship. I was like,
yeah.
And he at one point he says, she's free as a dang gale and smart as a whip.
A dang gale.
That's what I say about you, Brandon. Call me Courthouse Cat. I'm like, oh, that Brandini, he's as free as a dang gale and smart as a whip. Whip. Three thrusts and done, Chase. You just like,
I know my note was I didn't know what kind of book she wrote, so I was just like, is it a kid's book? Is it a narrative book?
Yeah.
Is it a scientific book? I was so.
It looked like family. Like it could like anyone could. Anyone can learn something from that. It's colorful.
It looked like family.
Family. It's for.
It looked like family.
Looks like Vin Diesel would love it. But yeah, Chase did the thing where he's just like,
looks like family.
Yep.
All right, Vin. that was such a Vin thing to say.
Family.
That looks like family.
Everybody has a boat. Yeah, that point that Tate just rolls up and sees both of them. There's like everybody's just boating around. They have the Piggly Wiggly. I just love that name. I'm a California guys, and
yeah, SoCal surfer dude.
Are there still Piggly Wigglies? Tell us.
Yeah, I think so.
Reach out. Chase, what the fuck?
she didn't know her own birthday. I thought was really interesting.
I like that. That was a cool moment.
But
she said, "Don't cut my name on the birthday cake," because that was like special to her, of like having a name, not Marsh Girl.
Not Marsh Girl. Yeah. Oh man. I want to like this movie.
Oh yeah. No, I mean the book's gotta be much better. And yeah, you can't get double married. Jump In, I thought that's a cool name. Jump In.
Sounded like that reminded me when they said that of what is it? Walk Hard.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I've been referencing this whole time. right when that scene is so dramatic, and I still think it's effective of like seeing the fiance and everything, but it's just like I just want her to just yell at Chase in the middle. You can't get double married, Chase. I can't build you a house of chocolate. It'll melt in the sun.
Not if it never rains.
They're judging themselves. I thought that was like a poignant thing of that was where the poetic side of a well-written book comes through in a movie. But otherwise, I think it's very difficult. Let's check out what some critics have to say on the 35% critic side. Again, 35% critics, 96% audience. Very, very fucking spicy and very wintry cold.
It's very polarized, ladies and gentlemen.
That's like, oh, we love that over here. We love that. We just like yum 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 polarized kingdom. Yum yum. Bring it through the gates.
There's two things we stand for on this podcast: is polarizing scores and Tate.
Oh, we stand Tate. Yeah. Oh yeah. Tate's a hunk. From Peter Bradshaw at The Guardian gives it a 1 out of 5. Plays like an all-white reboot of To Kill a Mockingbird with Edgar Jones somehow getting to play Scout and Tom Robinson at the same time. And the big twist ending is an outrageously evasive cheat.
That is such an interesting comparison.
I think that's what like Reese Witherspoon had said about the movie, like why she wanted to produce it was comparing it to kind of like a To Kill a Mockingbird when she read it. And the courtroom drama thing, a misunderstood person that's framed, or you find out. From Empire Magazine, Sophie Butcher, a 2 out of 5, a flat, flair-free, and uninspiring adaptation.
Yeah.
From the Austin Chronicle, Jenny Nolf, 2 out of 5. Edgar Jones' easygoing allure isn't enough to bind where the Crawdads sing together, though leaving the film a generic, dull outing.
Ugh, yeah.
Maybe do one more. Let's see. From Real Views with James. No, actually, let's do Kyle Smith with Wall Street Journal. Detached from the lush nature writing in the book, the story's plot beats stand exposed as bland contrivances familiar from 1,000 romance novels about plucky, adorable damsels versus snaky and duplicitous men. Essentially, yeah, just calling it generic. Let's see what audience. Oh, there's this one. Here's one funny positive one from Ty Burr, if you want to call this positive. It is ... acceptable. 2 out of 4. All right, well let's warm up here and check out some positive audience reviews. You just can't run away from every whip stitch, Brandon. I don't know how many
you can't.
fucking times I have to tell you, but
well, I'm a Marsh Girl, so
yeah, you're right there.
Right there. That's why I do it. I run from whip snitches because I'm a Marsh Girl.
Yeah, well, that excuse is only going to work so far when you find yourself in a pickle. And you got to defend yourself against throwing a man off of a tower. I hope you covered up your footprints. It shows her covering up the footprints the whole time, and that's kind of acceptable as typers.
Yeah, no, it is.
From Anon 7, 5 stars, titled "Intriguing Story with a Twist at the End." The acting is good and the story well developed. Shocking opening shows family broken by abusive father, then follows the life of one child who experienced tender moments, loneliness, generosity, love, and other people's greed. The climax is a very interesting twist. Enjoy! Enjoy!
Come with me.
Oh. Okay.
All right.
5 stars.
The gates are open wide.
From Mr. Pickles. And there's a picture of Mr. Pickles, the cartoon
Mr.
character.
Pickles.
Titled, "Wife Made Me Watch It." Was a pretty good movie. 5 stars.
It's so funny to me. Like, yeah, she made me do it.
That's titled that. Yeah. It's like, hey, all you guys out there.
Yeah, she made me. Good. So I didn't. Just to let you know, I didn't want to watch this, but you know, hey, asterisk. Am I right?
It's essentially the title was one big asterisk. Like, yeah, that's my reasoning. From PBAT 26, titled "Great Movie," 5 stars. A little sad, but shows the resilience of a young lady who's had many hardships and how ignorant some people can be. I recommend watching it. I also think Prime should lower its price to rent. If it weren't for free shipping, I wouldn't pay for Prime. I haven't found any free movies for quite a while. Amazon can afford it with all the customers they have. Greedy.
Yeah, I agree.
Brandon agrees. From Woodburner, 5 stars. Ooh, this sounds like a Marsh Girl. Titled, "Read the book first. Enjoyed the movie." Or read the book first. Enjoyed the movie. I thought this movie was well done. Having read the book, I know there were parts that were necessarily left out. Don't know how it would have held up if I hadn't read the book, but I enjoyed it, especially the way they managed to sneak in the surprise whodunit information at the end. Just really threw it in there right at the end. From Randolph B, 5 stars, titled "Fabulous." A beautiful novel, mystery, love story, and a coming-of-age story in the midst of adversity. A wonderful story with a great ending. It's a lot of 5 stars here. There's on Prime Video, there's 30,000. ratings, 84% of those ratings are 5 stars. Like the audience like really loves this
Loves
movie.
it.
There's a I don't know, probably like a pulpiness fun sort of ride with the book.
The book readers are coming out in full force in the comment section.
That's what it seems like. And knowing, I
You're
wonder.
You're forgiving a lot of this movie because you know
Mhm.
so much more. You've been provided context that we just don't get.
I'd imagine it would be hard to go in completely unbiased in some ways, but also there's got to be some people that are going in with it even more critical eye because they know so much. But I really like that one of those last audience reviews where it's just like, I know that there were cuts, like necessary cuts, and that's true with any adaptation from a book. So that kind of made me feel a little bit better hearing that from that one person, I guess, that they were okay with what was cut. But for my enjoyment as just a movie, it was a little different. I was gonna read a little bit of this NPR article just for a last little minute thing before we do our final thoughts. Questions linger over where the Crawdads sink author as film adaptation is released by Mandalit Del Barco. Where the Crawdads Sing tells a fictional story, blah, blah, blah. And it took wildlife scientist, this is the author, Delia Owens, a decade to write Where the Crawdads Sing. Her first novel has now been on the New York Times bestseller list for 168 weeks. Actress Reese Witherspoon loved it so much, she added it to her popular book club and produced the new film adaptation. Quote, "It just blew me away. It felt like when I was reading To Kill a Mockingbird or just any sort of classic Southern literature. She layers on this thriller element. There's a murder. And murder, a real life murder in the mid 1990s, is the big elephant in the room. With the film's release, news has resurfaced that 73-year-old Owens is still wanted for questioning by Zambian authorities as a possible witness, co-conspirator, and accessory to federal crimes. At the time, she and her then husband Mark were living in Zambia as animal conservationists, trying to save elephants from poachers. Journalist Jeffrey Goldberg first wrote about this for The New Yorker in 2010, and more recently The Atlantic magazine, where he's now editor-in-chief. His reporting suggests that Owens set up a brutal operation to go after anyone who was a threat to the elephant reserve. In fact, an ABC News crew documenting the Owens work in 95 actually captured the execution of a suspected poacher. Quote, "The bodies of the poachers are often left where they fall for the animals to eat."
I was hanging by.
Narrator Meredith Vieira said on the show Turning Point, "Conservation, morality, Africa." You can hear the gunshots, but the shooter of the identified man was never seen on camera, a body was never found, and no one has been formally charged with the crime. According to Jeffrey Goldberg, some witnesses reportedly implicated Mark Owens and his son Christopher, but the journalist says their attorneys have issued statements of denial on the killing. He quoted Delia Owens saying she had nothing to do with it. Taylor Swift wrote and sang on the film's soundtrack, saying on Instagram she wanted to create something haunting and ethereal to match this mesmerizing story. But she's faced social media backlash for her involvement in the film. In an interview, the director and star of the movie both told me they didn't know anything about this part of Delia Owens' past, though they did say she has a cameo in the film. Pretty wild stuff.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild stuff. I just had to share that little
real life implications are happening.
I have no real commentary of myself to say besides just like, hey, she's at the center of a little murder mystery of her own, and the reasoning behind it is like a movie in itself.
Right. I just hopefully that they focus more on the mystery of the murder and the prosecution of it, because then we would be loving it. We'd be loving it.
I would watch a movie of like a mystery writer turned poacher hunter.
Mm-hmm.
I'd watch that.
Totally. Yeah.
Like hunting poachers, like whatever you feel about that, like as far as like an interesting story, it would be interesting.
For sure. Yeah. An interesting story is very interesting. Gotcha.
I'm trying out here, man. I don't know.
I don't know.
It
is an interesting story.
to know that my co-host is now annoyed with me must say that the listeners must be as well over my
no, that's not true at all. I'm just giving you shit.
My redundant statements.
No, they love it. They love it, and I love it because I had no idea about that, and I'm sure people had no idea as well. But it's so funny. The button on that was great. It was funny.
Yeah, that's let's put a numerical value to this bad boy. What are you thinking?
Okay. I love the casualness that we've just entered into this portion.
Yeah, baby.
Usually it has this kind of, I'm gonna go, you're gonna go, who's gonna decide? But I feel like we're just like we could kind of toss out numbers. I'm
kind of feeling that too. Yeah.
And just go like, hey, this is why I like it. So I'm gonna give this movie a 43%.
Oh my god, you were one off of what I was about to say. I was crazy. Honest to God about to say 44. I was like 45 or 44. I was going to say 44.
43 for me, man. Like,
it's definitely 40 range.
Can I just say this? That like, as what my review was going to be, like, if it was more theatrical, is
we can rewind.
No. So what this movie made me think about is how movies like Cobra have existed.
I've never seen Cobra.
So Cobra is a very silly movie starring Sylvester Stallone, where he just shoots a lot of people, but like protects the city and, has this whole like just proposition behind him, but he just really fucks up the bad guys. And that's such a guy movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is made by guys starring a guy, and it appeals to guys. This movie is a movie made by women, starring women, written by women, that obviously appeals to women. And as somebody who is going to not live in a totally heterosexual place or like a stereotypical male perspective, I can understand why. Like, there are some really sensual, like, romantic relationship stuff in this movie that's awesome. Like, and I don't deny it, but yeah, like, so okay, so and that's the period.
I think it is successful in putting you in her perspective.
Exactly, absolutely. So yeah, and that's kind of where I would leave it. But anybody who watches Cobra is like, this isn't a good movie necessarily, but is it a fun movie, or is it an enjoyable movie in its objective to court the audience that it's going after? 110%. And so yeah, like, I think it's really funny to think about how Reese Witherspoon with Yellow Jackets is another situation where it is somebody who's been in Hollywood who knows how to like produce a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like this movie didn't make money. It like did its job. It like courted the people that it was out to get, and they went and fucking saw the movie and liked it. And we're talking about that from a score standpoint. And she could legit just keep doing this shit. Like, anything that is on a bestseller book list that's really interesting, be the producer and make this movie happen, and go after the exact audience is going to like it, and continue to fucking do this. And I really appreciate this movie to a degree for what it is, because it's not a bad movie. There's just things I wanted out of this movie that I didn't get. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, you know what? This movie wasn't made for me. I got the sense of maybe they wanted me, but kind of a sneaky suspicion that they didn't. That they had a particular person in mind when they made this movie to go see it, and everybody came out and went and saw it. So yeah, as who I am, I'm not going to give this a really poopy score, but would I recommend this? I don't know. I think there are better versions of this, but I understand what it's doing. So yeah.
Let's end on some Cobra reviews. We gotta.
I wanted to hear what you wanted to say.
Okay.
But okay.
No, I I can do. I don't have to do Cobra reviews.
I want to hear some Cobra reviews, so just okay.
I feel like I mean I went into this with the most open mind possible because I really didn't know what to expect. For what I enjoyed of it, I think were those key points in the movie of what they really were the most important scenes was the opening murder and investigating of it was caught my fancy for a bit. Some of the romance stuff with Tate caught my whimsy as well.
Ooh, hashtag we stand Tate.
Hashtag catch my whimsy. Hashtag stand Tate. Stand Tate. Some of the courtroom stuff left me a little wanting, but I did like the performance of David Strathairn. However you say his name. Some other good performances, like the shopkeepers, were like the heart of the movie in a lot of way, and like
needed like provided so much more of that stuff, like what their family, like I want
characters like that or something. Like
I want to know so much more about what
this town has to have more loving people than just the two shopkeepers to know that like this whole family,
and not even them fully. It's such a minimal. I'm sorry.
Just a little of that community stuff and a little bit of the fleshing out of an ensemble sort of cast, but you don't have the time for it. This is already a 2-hour movie. The places that I thought it dragged was definitely all the chase stuff. I feel like there's a way to rally through a toxic relationship where it doesn't have to be so gratuitous with the drama there. If that's a movie that you're wanting to make, then yeah, maybe that's a situation like you're saying, maybe it's not for me. And maybe it is really trying to illustrate what it's like to be a woman in this sort of domineering relationship where you don't know what it's like to be treated with love and empathy from a significant other, and you're still learning your way to even have a proper friendship or communicate with somebody, and he is giving you attention, but the evils of even your father and stuff like start to rear their head, and a lot of that stuff I know will hit home for a lot of people, and I in my mind would just come through better in text with internal monologue, a little bit more of a back and forth between the courtroom stuff and that. I can see going chapter by chapter. Like the bare bones are the things that worked for me, and the bare bones I imagine are the things that were lifted almost directly from the book. And seeing the fiance in the street and stuff like that. But there's something that rings super hollow about this movie that I feel like is also very forgettable, and nothing really stands out that sets it apart from other murder mystery romantic drama movies that I would be into. And the thing that would be is maybe the Marsh Girl element, of being a Marsh Girl. I think some of that stuff also like made me interested about her independently as a person apart from these guys and everything, and even just more so how she learned to survive in the marsh on her own. It's a little bit more interesting to me. I was like, from the age 10 to 16, like what was that? What were those years like and everything, like besides just catching mussels and selling them to the shopkeeper and all that stuff. And then also I wanted a little bit more out of like the follow through on that murder, and how exactly it happened. But they're telling me it doesn't matter. It's just you're going to find out years later when she's already grown old and died, and then her secrets are going to come out. And then you're just going to get a little whiff of like what really happened, but you're never going to know the full truth. I get the artistic merit in that too. But the way that it was leading, I don't know, it left me, a lot of this movie left me wanting in certain areas. So yeah, I really feel like it's on the colder end for me, and not something that I would revisit, let alone recommend wholeheartedly to. Yeah. And I'll have to check out Cobra.
Can you read?
I love that. That's the comp. From Ajit Singe, gave it a 5 stars. Another masterpiece by Sly. An unfortunate reason is that good movies that came between Rambo and Rocky franchise till the end of 1990 didn't get much light. But the movie is really a must-watch crime/action. And the dialogue in the starting scene, which is "You are a disease, I'm the cure," is one of the best deliveries ever. moment you will become a fan of him. Love this movie. The most badass cop you will ever witness. Marion Cobretti, the Cobra.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, and there's plenty more where that came from. Even though at Rotten Tomatoes for a movie that came out in 1986 doesn't really apply, but 18% by critics, 43% by audience. I don't know. I want to do some more of these 80s movies and find some older movies. But for now, I will be announcing our next movie. It's a little bit further back. It's got.
I think this has a very similar 80s vibe too.
I agree. I think it is from a bygone era. This kind of movie. It is a little picture called Con Air from 1997, starring Nicolas Cage and a shit ton of other.
I'm so fucking excited about this movie.
People. Speaking of a movie made by men.
Yeah.
For men.
It's a real, but that's what this podcast, James, is about. Is this, we're living in a balance.
We're polarizing.
We're trying to establish a balance.
We're going to both polar zones constantly. We're constantly swinging back and forth between all sides of pop culture, and we're trying to keep up. We're trying to wade through and put our own mark on everything going on out there. But there's so much stuff, and sometimes we gotta visit a little comfort food, if you know what I mean. Well, that's a little teaser of how we're feeling about Con Air, but join us next time as we talk about a 58% critically reviewed movie versus a 75% audience reviewed movie. And we hope you've enjoyed your time here today at the Polarized Kingdom. Please validate with the Brandini on the way out.
Please bring your tickets to me.
Yes, right this way. And reach us at polarizedpod@gmail.com if you want to send us anything there. We're live, twitch.tv/polarizedpod.
Check us out on Twitch.
Check us out. Have fun.
Show me what you got.
Show me what you got. ProdPod is a podcast about music producers that's on Spotify that features us and the great Blarge Jr. Yes. Brandini, have so much fun at Life is Beautiful. Can't wait till you get back and regale us with your stories on concert review. He looks like John Lennon. He's wearing some John Lennon glasses right now. He's got some John.
This is the kind of shit you would get if you watch this on Twitch.
You should really be seeing the glasses that the great Brandini's wearing right now and the silly faces he's making. I'm gonna be looking forward to the silly faces that one Nicolas Cage will be making next time as well. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. I hope the same for you. Hell yeah. Hope the same for you guys out there. We'll see you next time. We love you all. Bye.
Bye.